Hello everyone, it's Teferi07. Today we are playing Cascade Beans. This is a brew I brewed a month ago and posted a lot of lists on my X profile. After that people started playing it, brewing their lists, and I saw a lot of different stuff going on. At that point I had problems against Tron, I had problems against Scam and other decks playing Bowmasters and Sheldred. I had problems also against Burn. At the times I didn't have Omnath in back then, and deck had a lot of problems and it still has a lot of problems, but recently it gained some popularity with Aspiring Spike creating his version of this deck. And I also decided to tweak my list a bit. I added Omnath to the list and did some few more changes. And I really like my initial idea was playing one Crashing Footfalls in the main and have transformative sideboard when you in some matchups when a Beanstalk is not that good, and you can just transform your deck into the Rhinos deck. Rhinos deck has a lot of good matchups, a lot of free matchups. I think this is like a great advantage, and I can't imagine playing this deck without Rhinos on the side. It feels like 10 times weaker than with the Rhinos. It doesn't cost me anything, and also having a Violent Outburst in the main enables me to play at instant speed, and putting a Beanstalk instant speed on the field, which is amazingly strong when you're playing against Spell Pierce, Force of Negation, stuff like that, and people will definitely play that if this strategy becomes more and more popular and not getting banned, of course. And also like not having a Bloodbraid Elf enables you to play Force of Negation, which is incredibly strong card to have in your sideboard when playing this type of strategy. And I think I already tested billion leagues with this strategy. I played it a month ago. I created a white version with Solitude, the Ardent Plea. I had red version with Outburst, but in the end, at that point, I decided that the best version was just a month ago playing Crashing Footfalls in the main and playing Beanstalks on the sideboard, and that way you have like a good Rhinos deck that beats 4-color Omnath, that beats Murktide easily, and just making all those even and difficult matchups very favorable for you. So, but of course there is definitely a lot of positivity in playing the Beanstalk main. The card advantage it provides is incredible, but I definitely feel like Crashing Footfalls give it another strength which can be uncountable. It's like really good having option to just freely transform into the Rhinos deck post board. Rhinos has, as I already said, a lot of free and very good matchups. It is overall a very good deck, and it developed a very good sideboard strategy when I'm switching into the Rhinos deck. I have two Scions in the main, which also help me get that aggressive game plan in game 2. Also, sometimes you trim Solitudes if you're trying to beat tempo deck. Sometimes you leave Solitudes if you're playing against decks like Reanimator or Murktide, stuff like that, of course. But there is a lot of possibilities, and I really like this one Footfalls in the main. It enabled me in a lot of situations to just have that access to another good finisher in those games when you're milling yourself and you don't have enough pressure on the field to finish. I just go for the Footfalls and I gain that clock, and after gaining that clock you succeed to win on time before you mill yourself. So it works kind of like having one-off endurance in the main, but this way you have target for these A lot of these cascade spells, often you put all the beans on the field or have them in a hand and the cascade spells don't do anything, but that's why I have additional cascade target in the main, and I'm very happy with it. Okay, so that is the deck. Sideboard is very simple: 4 Force of Negation, 4 Force of Vigor, Endurance, Footfalls, and 1 of Elesh Norn. Okay, so that is it, and let's go to the gameplay. I just finished, I played this deck in couple of leagues, and in both of these leagues I ended up 4-1, losing both of my trophy matches to the Kragenwick Gorios Reanimator, and the games were like really interesting and fun to play, at least for me, and not so much for my opponents. Okay, so opponent here goes with the Totsis, and they play Urza Saga, so obviously they're playing Red-Green Rock, and they have cards in their deck that is very good against Beans deck, that is Witherbloom Command. So that is really cool card that for 2 mana kills the Beanstalk and also bring back a deck from your graveyard to your hand, which is often Urza Saga or Boseiju. So I think this can potentially be pretty good anti-Beans deck, but also just playing Witherbloom in this exact deck didn't feel very good for the opponent right now. I had too much going on, and yeah, so opponent finds the Havar Might but taps out, so I was able, so I just want to highlight how good is having the Violent Outburst, for example, in most of situations, but yeah, here is the first example. So I'm able to play my Beans instant speed, and it's just a very good spell, and the opponent doesn't expect this. So now I'm tapping with a lot of cards in my hand. I can do wonders right now. There's like I can absolutely crush my opponent, and I went for Fire Ice and Leyline Binding, clearing my opponent's board, and still I have Omnath in my hand, Scion, Solitude, very hard hand to beat for opponent's deck. Also there is Footfalls coming on from the suspend, and this is definitely very good situation for me. I hardcast my Omnath, didn't draw a land, but that is fine. I have 12 power on the field and good stuff in my hand. Opponent plays another Saga, plays a Sheldred and a Nihil Spellbomb, but that is not enough for the opponent. So I had definitely some options here. Okay, so I went for Solitude here to exile Sheldred before attack, and opponent immediately concedes. That was game 1. Okay, so I keep a risky hand with a 1-lander and a Lórien, and opponent immediately has Totsis to discard my Lórien, but I find the Sacred Foundry from the top and suspend the Crashing Footfalls. Okay, so opponent plays Urza Saga, and I use this opportunity to get rid of Saga and Shadowspear, and this hit opponent a lot. They didn't find a 3rd land for a long time, and they weren't doing much. I had my Rhinos on the suspend, and I was in a pretty good situation, so I find my Raugrin Triome, hold the Fire Ice to go as their upkeep. Hopefully steal another turn from my opponent. They go for the Elvish Reclaimer, and now I'm resolving Rhinos and also drawing Teferi for a turn, bouncing Elvish Reclaimer, getting another land, and this is just too good a situation for me. Opponent is on 6 cards in hand, but they are low on lands, not doing much, and it's just impossible. I cast my Fury, kill Reclaimer, and opponent concedes. That is the game. Okay, so let's check out the match 2. I had to mulligan that one, and this one was not good either. But I didn't want to go to 5, and I kept this 6. Despite not being great, but I'm on the draw. I have 2 removals, so yeah. Opponent was playing Yawgmoth, so my hand wasn't that bad actually. Like Binding and Solitude, 2 Solitudes. That is a lot of exile removal, and exile removal is pretty good against their deck. Okay, so I decided to go for the Binding immediately, since I had 2 Solitudes in my hand to deal with Yawgmoth. Opponent, it's so obvious they are going for the Bowmasters when Yawgmoth not doing anything on turn 2. It's very obvious. And opponent turn 3 plays Grist, creates a token. I decide to get rid of the Bowmasters and just pass the turn. So not a great situation for me, but I do have 2 Solitudes in my hand, so it's fine. Opponent goes for Eldritch Evolution, and I decide to exile the Young Wolf in response. This way they won't be able to draw that much cards with Yawgmoth. When they have the Young Wolf, they can just draw really a lot, but unfortunately they have another wolf in their hand. It is still a playable situation for me because I have another Solitude in my hand to exile the Yawgmoth. So of course I go for the Solitude, exile the Yawgmoth. Opponent draws again in response a lot of cards, killing my Solitude, and I getting the 6th land and passing the turn with the Beanstalk in my hand. Opponent in a very good situation, wolf on the board with Grist and another Yawg. Yeah, I top deck another Solitude, so of course I go for it. And they didn't want to kill their Wall of Roots, so they didn't kill my Solitude here. Opponent pluses the Grist, and of course there is a 3rd Yawgmoth, and they go Chord of Calling for 2, have the Blood Artist to combo off, and that is the game. So let's check out game 2. Opponent had pretty good hand, drawing a bunch of cards and finding 3 Yawgmoth on time. So that was unbeatable for my weak starting hand. And game 2 didn't start much better because I had to mulligan to 5. But I had my Scion of Draco, which is very good card in the matchup. And overall, Scion is very good against my opponent's deck. It flies and it's hard for them to block it. So it's really good tempo and not that easy for them to deal with. And even if they have the Yawgmoth, they have to, if you put them low enough, even if they get Yawgmoth, it will be kind of hard for them to deal with it. And opponent passing the turn, not attacking with Bowmasters, that is like so obvious they're going for the Chord of Calling. But I wasn't completely sure what are they getting for X2. It was Wall of Roots, probably to just play another chord, which was fine. So they decided not to go for Yawgmoth, but to go for the Grist instead, get rid of my Scion of Draco. That is good, showing how big Scion is a problem for them actually. And I had to go like Binding end of turn to get rid of the Grist, and on my turn I fire-iced the Bowmasters. Okay, so opponent goes for Agatha, but they don't have much in the graveyard at this moment. Only Bowmasters and nothing really in my graveyard. Yeah, this was maybe a mistake. Probably a mistake. Yeah, I should have waited for their turn and played the Solitude end of turn and just exile this Yawgmoth. I think that would be much better plan. Opponent going for the Bowmasters, killing my Subtlety using 2 of the Yawgmoth abilities, drawing a card, probably hoping to get something with Elven Chorus. and that enabled me to go end of turn Endurance, and then attack with Endurance, put my opponent on 2 life, which is really low. And I went for the Shardless Agent into the Footfalls. Okay, so let's see my sideboarding plan for the Yawgmoth matchup, because they play Sheldred and they play Bowmasters and they also have Chord of Calling, and that's why I definitely want to take out the Beanstalks in this matchup, and the Rhinos is one of the hardest matchups for them, and I think this is a very good example how good the Rhinos on the sideboard can be. Also, I take out the Omnaths, Teferis, and took in 2 Force of Negations. They play like Agatha, they play Chord, they play the Eldritch Evolution. So it is a decent card against them, better than some other, and yeah. Okay, so Rhinos got me there, and that was lethal. Opponent just wasn't able to get out of that situation, and it's all Rhinos on the side, and that one in the main already won me so much matches, partially because my opponents were really not expecting it, but also just being a very good game plan against a lot of decks, and having a lot of free matchups. Okay, so opponent starts off with unfortunately Soulless Jailer. And yes, Soulless Jailer is very good against me, against Rhinos post board. I can't Cascade, and opponent goes for the Fulminator Mage, tries to disrupt my mana base. Luckily I had a lot of lands, so that wasn't a big problem. And as I already said, Scion is very good card against them. In this matchup, opponent goes for Halfling and unfortunately has the Grist again, and they're able to deal with my Scion here. So I'm looking for a land, I'm finding a Steam Vents, drawing another Endurance, and I just pass the turn, waiting to cast this Endurance. Opponent goes for Eldritch Evolution. As I already mentioned, they have a lot of these spells, and the Force can be good against them, and it definitely was here, so I was able to force their Eldritch. They lost a creature in, they didn't want to block with the Jailer, so it was a good situation for me. I had another Endurance in hand, and opponent was now on 0 cards, so I just needed a solution for this Soulless Jailer. Opponent chumps both of my Endurances to let their Grist survive. Still didn't want to block with Soulless Jailer. And yeah, okay, so they make another token, find the Wall of Fruits from the top, and I now had double binding, so I just went for the Grist attack first. When they jumped, I used my binding to get rid of Grist and suspend one of my suspend Rhinos from my hand. I find a land from top, which means now I can double spell, so I go for the binding on Jailer, and Shardless getting me 2 more Rhinos on the field, which means I have lethal for the next turn. And opponent now definitely can't get out of this situation, even if they draw like Yawgmoth or whatever, it's just a game over, that is it. Okay, Rhinos winning me match, and it would be much harder for me to win this without Rhinos. And Rhinos is very good against my opponent's deck, and they have Bowmasters in the main, they have even Sheldred in the main, they play Chord of Calling, so they're able to find these cards. And if you don't draw Fury or Solitude or Fire Ice at the right time, you just can very easily lose to these cards. Okay, so that was my game plan for this match, and it worked great. Okay, so let's check out match 3. Okay, I kept a decent 7 cards, no green mana at the moment, but I have a double Teferi, I have mana to cast Teferi, and opponent started off with a Grief on turn 1, Okay, I'm guessing they will probably. I'm recording this um, uh, ban announcement, so I still don't know if stuff is getting banned or not. But I'm guessing they will ban Grief and not touch the beans. And unfortunately, my opponent had pretty brutal hand. This is partially the reason why these cards are getting maybe getting banned. And yeah, so I had counter to turn 1 Grief scam, but instead they scammed the Fury. Unfortunately for me, I had beans in the main and not Rhinos, so my beans were not very good in this game, and I had even more. I was even more unlucky to draw into my one-off Crashing Footfalls. And yes, okay, that was pretty brutal draws from my opponent. And they won that one. Okay, so I think suspending Footfalls on the play against Scam is a very good play. So I decided, for that reason, I decided to keep this hand. And they play turn 1 Ragavan, but you can usually top deck something to last until the opponent till you resolve your Rhinos, and then Rhinos can often from the suspend they can often just stabilize your board. Opponent doesn't have much. I decide to go for my basic here, play the Shardless Agent. Opponent probably didn't expect to see Rhinos post board. I resolve my Rhinos, and my opponent is completely helpless right now. If they don't have Fury Scam or something like that, Bowmasters is terrible against Rhinos. So another example of Rhinos being very good on the sideboard. Beanstalks out against the Bowmasters deck, and you could see in game 1 how bad was actually cascading into Beanstalk. Doesn't do anything for me, and right now if that was Rhinos, I would probably stabilize in that game 1 too. And Rhinos is such a good strategy against Red-Black Scam, and also against Yawgmoth, and a lot of decks playing the Bowmasters, and the Bowmasters is really the #1 Beanstalk enemy, of course Sheldred too. And okay, yeah, so that is it. Easy win thanks to the Rhinos. In this game, opponent concedes, and let's check out the game 3. Okay, so this is pretty good hand. I have Solitude, I have Fury, and I also have Binding. So I decided to Solitude this Grief. My opponent has 3 cards in hand. They take the Binding. And yeah, I draw Crashing Footfalls for a turn. As I already said, I think Footfalls is very good turn 1 play on the against them, and you can often just stabilize before. I brain farted here actually. I thought like this is a different land and I can go for Steam Vents. Yeah, so I completely didn't count on this, and I get a Sacred Foundry, the only thing I can. And my opponent goes for the Ragan Dash, so it ended up being decent play. I knew they have Undying Spell in hand, and I was fine with this. I was either resolving the Rhinos next turn with Outburst or just pitch casting the Fury. Since my opponent casted the Shardless as their last card, I was okay with hard casting the Fury. Pitch casting the Fury and getting my 3rd land, and now I'm just have to find that Leyline Binding from my hand to get rid of this Shardless, and then I get an easy win. Okay, so end of turn, I take their Shardless with my Binding, go for the Shardless, get my Rhinos, and now this is a 2-turn clock basically. My opponent is on 1 card in hand. I play my Teferi plus the Teferi, so even if they get anything, I can just bounce it with Teferi and get another draw, And that is it for the opponent. Yeah, so Rhinos from the side helped me win another matchup. And now let's go to the match 4. Rhinos have, as I already said, Rhinos have been so good to me. At this point I can't really imagine playing this strategy without Rhinos, and also just Violent Outburst has been amazing. Enabled me to get those beans on the field instant speed when my opponent fetches or plays something. It's just, I think, feels like a very valuable thing. And the opponent was playing Affinity, the version of Affinity with Galvanic Blasts and Shrapnel Blasts. Okay, they also had a Nettle Cyst. I was fine with these cards. I had like a Binding and a Beanstalk to just overwhelm them. Opponent lost all their resources. They didn't have much right now, so I just went for a second Beanstalk, just play my another land, and yeah, so now I can start drawing stuff and doing crazy Beanstalk things. I decided to get rid of their mana. They had Giganta in hand. I didn't have solutions for Giganta at the moment, so I wanted to postpone them playing it. Okay, so I also had Rhinos on suspend. That Rhinos really helped me solve this game 1 faster and get there quicker without risks of milling myself that often. Next turn I had Ice on their upkeep to again prevent them from playing Giganta. And on my turn I decided to go for Lórien Revealed Hardcast, drawing me 6 cards. And then just applying pressure to my opponent, putting as much power on the field as possible, drawing a bunch of cards with these Beanstalks. Opponent trying to play on the burn plan. So I play another Shardless just to put 2 power on the field and discard some cards I don't need. Yeah. Okay, so I have Rhinos resolving next turn. That is a lot of damage on the field, and my opponent only has 2 cards right now. And I play my Scion. I play another Shardless and Omnath just to put as much power on the field as possible, and to have a good clock to finish this as soon as I can. So I go for another Shardless and play Fire in my opponent's face. Attack with Shardless for 2. My opponent is now on 14, and I have more than enough damage on the field to finish this next turn. My opponent draws 2 and concedes. That is the match. Okay, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. Okay, so let's see game 2. Okay, my sideboard plan in this matchup is that I definitely want that one-off Endurance to prevent milling myself. This is matchup, I do no changes with Footfalls. I just want that one Rhinos in main as it was in the main deck. I ditch my Teferis and Scion of Dracos, of course, to bring those Force of Vigors in. Force of Vigor, obviously one of the best cards in the matchup against Affinity. And I go tap their land in their upkeep. An opponent does nothing. I was expecting like Metallic Rebukes. I decide to go for the Shardless here to try to put Beanstalk on the field. Opponent has the Rebuke, but I was like really fine with this. I got two guy on the field, so I can start attacking. An opponent plays Urza Saga. That is a very good card against me, one of the best in the matchup. So I decide to go for the Force, but opponent has another Rebuke, which can be really good for them right now because they have Urza Saga. I was not able to kill it. And I had a bunch of good cards in my hand too, like 2 Solitudes, Fury, Binding. These are very good cards, but opponent also has 3 cards in their hand. And 2 large constructs on the field I have to deal with. They had a lot of good draws right now, chaining 2 Thoughtcasts. I resolved my binding and got rid of the attacking construct token. I was hoping for them to not play anything this turn, but they had Moonsnare prototype to make their construct 5/5. This meant I can't really play the Fury to kill it, which was my best play at the moment. So now I decided to go for just tap the construct and then play my Solitudes in the next turn. A really interesting game, like opponent had another Saga making 2 more constructs. I had Beans on the field, a lot of elementals in my hand. And yeah, I go for one of my Solitudes here when my opponent didn't have it had before they grow their constructs. That way I gain them less life. Okay, so opponent has a lot of good stuff, Gingerbrute, Nettle Cyst, and they go for a Nettle Cyst equip on the Topter. I decided to not deal with Ornithopter, but just go binding the Nettle Cyst next turn and jump one of the constructs attacking. So yeah, as I said, I went for the binding, getting rid of the Nettle Cyst, and now I had a mana to cast my Solitude. That was the plan. So I got rid of the Topter and the Gingerbrute and had a Solitude plus binding to deal with constructs. Also Shardless Agent on the field. I decided just to play safely and go for the Solitude immediately before my opponent draws another Metallic Rebuke, but they had Galvanic Blast from the hand and another Galvanic Blast to finish me off, and that was lethal damage for them. Yeah, so that was it. Okay, let's check out game 3. They got me with Galvanic Blasts in that one. Okay, so I kept a pretty good hand in game 3 against them. Now I have that 1 endurance in the main. I need to not mill myself, so I'm pretty comfortable playing this long game. I start off with the Beanstalk, of course, on turn 2 and get my engines going. Opponent plays Springleaf Drum. They didn't have any pressure in the early turns, so I just shocked in the Foundry and hold the Violent Outburst so I can play around the Rebuke and resolve my second Beans. I really like how well Beans play with the Violent Outbursts. So same as when you have those when you're playing other Cascade decks, you still get to play it in instant speed, resolve it against Spell Pierce, against Force of Negation. I think this is like very powerful play. Okay, I go for Force of Vigor here, messing up their Metalcraft and Affinity, so they can't really play their Thoughtcasts, Thought Monitors, stuff like that. Okay, they exile Thoughtcast from Mishra Research Desk, but they have to totally tap out to play it, and they find Urza Saga. And that is this is pretty good situation for me. I'm in no hurry to do anything. They don't have mana open for Metallic Rebuke or anything like that, so I'm free to play whatever I want. Put a Solitude on the field to start attacking them. I got Omnath, got the fetch. Play another Beanstalk, play another Shardless, and put all 4 Beanstalks on the field. we all know how nasty can this be, but also I have to be careful to not deck myself. I have that one of endurance in main to prevent myself from doing so, but still, yeah, 4 beans is a lot, and it can still happen. And yeah, I had force there, but my opponent still has a protection from all colors on their edge champion, because they have 2 artifact lands and champion. My opponent plays Thought Monitor and Moonsnare Prototype. At this point, my plan was to clear all their non-edge champion creatures and get through for as much damage as I can. Okay, so I went with both of my guys, putting my opponent on 9, and I had endurance in my hand right now, and yes, I was okay with drawing because I just had to be careful they not counter my endurance. That's it. So they go for Thought Monitor, I play the Binding in response, drawing more cards, getting rid of the Nettle Cyst. And now I had 3 attackers for the next turn, also Rhinos on suspend. I play the Fury to get rid of the Monitor, to try to get more damage through. My plan was finishing them off with Fire Ices. Just 6 cards in my library at this point, but endurance in my hand. Yeah, I brain farted there with the fetch, so I didn't get my land, but I did. I should have waited for end of turn to play endurance, but it was fine. Okay, so I played my endurance, shuffled 20 cards into my library, and I had 3 Fire Ices at this point in my hand, which is lethal. I had Force of Vigors and Leyline Bindings to clear their blockers. Opponent has Shrapnel Blast to deal with my Fury. And yeah, on my turn I shock in with the land, and I go triple Fire Ice to their face to finish them off. I played around Metallic Rebuke. I had 3 mana to pay for the Rebuke, and that was it. So I had 3 mana there, paid the Rebuke cost, and finished off my opponent in a very, very long match. I had only 2 minutes left on clock. Okay, so that is it, and let's check out the match file. Okay, so as I said, I lost 2 trophy matches against Kraganvik Gorios combo. I had a pretty awkward starting hand, but like 3 Binding can be really good against a lot of decks, so I decided let's risk it, let's keep it. And really my opponent was playing Reanimator Gorios and the Rakdos version with Saga, and the 3 Bindings are like really good in this matchup. Also Solitudes are great. I had a lot of stuff to do in response to their Gorios. I have ability to remove their discard outlets. I just don't have a very good clock to finish the game fast enough. Okay, so opponent going for the constructs. I don't really care much about constructs, but I still have to deal with them. I had plenty of removal in my hand, so I wasn't really worried about that. Opponent going for another construct, resolving the Profane Tutor and getting the Underworld Cookbook. I decide I have plenty of removal and there's no point in taking this damage. So now I had Violent Outburst and a Binding. This means I can instant speed put beans on the field and then play the Binding to get the draw. So I don't have to play anything on my turn, and I really like ability to play instant speed like this. So end of their turn, I play the Outburst, I get the beans, I get the draw, then I play the binding. I really like how stuff like this is playing out. So I went for binding there, and then get another beans, pitch cast the Fury, kill both of their creatures, and I'm still holding the Leyline Binding for their turn. So end step, I take another Fable. This is their enabler, and I finally put a clock on the field, 2 Scion of Dracos, and still holding a Solitude to get rid of the Emrakul or whatever. So I knew I had all the beans in my hand, so at this point I know I only have Rhinos left in the deck. So I go plussing my Scions, dealing 10 damage to the opponent and putting Rhinos on the field. My opponent didn't play anything last turn, they just went for the Bowmasters, and yeah. So they're attacking with Goblin Shaman, making it obvious they have like Kragan in hand. But they also have 6 cards. My opponent plays a Kragan on 6 cards and deals 18 damage to the face. In response, I try to see if I have any solutions. So I went for the Solitude, exiling the Bowmaster, drawing me 3 cards. It's same for me if I have 7 on 10 life, it doesn't really affect me. And opponent discards Yargle and deals 18 to the face. This is exactly how I lost a trophy match in the previous league. And opponent had even 1 card more in there, they had 6 cards. It was really frustrating, but okay, it surely happens. And this opponent claimed they had like 50-60% chances to hit lethal in this case. Okay, so post board, let's see how I sideboarded in this matchup. Obviously I want Endurance against Reanimator deck. I also want Force of Negations, and in the previous version I had Subtleties in my sideboard. I replaced Subtlety with Elesh Norn and Force of Vigor. Subtlety would be great in this matchup. It's a solution for their Kragan, so I don't die like I did last game. And this Elesh Norn, I didn't use it even once in these 2 leagues I played, but it is okay in the mirror, but not even that good in the mirror. I was able to win the mirror matches even through Elesh Norn main deck. It just wasn't that great. Okay, so this is another matchup where I used the Rhinos, and Rhinos provide me with a very good clock, but unfortunately I missed my land drops for 2 turns, so it wasn't really the same situation, and I had Endurance plus Solitude to beat their Gorios, but opponent had Profane Tutor and they had double Totsis, and they also had Discard Outlet and the Gorios for the Emrakul, and yeah, we really it's not. I also had another binding in my hand, but I wasn't able to win through double Totsis, and that was it. Opponent just had a very good hand, so I lost my trophy match again to this deck. And first one I was so close to winning, and I had a lethal next turn in a 3rd game, and opponent Kragans with 6 cards in their hand and they hit lethal. That opponent didn't tell me how much chances did they have to hit, but yeah, I just wasn't very lucky against the Kragan decks today. But total of 8 to score for me with this list today. I feel like it's really good. I love having the Footfalls in the side and also this one in the main. It works so well for me in a lot of games. And against this Bowmasters deck, I just switch. It's very easy to switch to the Rhino build in this. With this, basically you just do this and you already have Scions in the main. And what you want to do in most cases is get rid of the Solitudes, and then you just put in like a couple of forces or whatever is good in that matchup, like either blue force or green force, endurance, something is often good. If nothing, you can always go with the endurance, of course. This plan worked for me very good. Of course, if you're playing like against Reanimator or against stuff like Yawgmoth, where Solitude is great, or like Murktide, and then you will leave these cards in and have a different game plan. But sometimes you will just go on being a classic Rhino tempo deck, and that's it. Okay, so I really like how this is working out for me, and really like the gameplay, and I really love the post board game plan of having Rhinos. And I just, as I already said a couple of times, I really can't imagine at the moment playing this without Rhinos and just having so many bad matchups. Especially Tron was bad matchup against this when I played this deck previously 1 month ago, and kind of the reason why I gave up on making a video sooner about Cascade Beans was like really bad Tron matchup. I had really bad burn matchup, and I had really mediocre scam matchup. So yeah, all these reasons is why I didn't do this vid earlier, and I was definitely thinking about this month ago when I initially posted this idea on my Twitter account. And that's it for today. Okay, so this is my final list, and of course with Rhinos on the side. I really like how this is playing out. I think if no bans happen, this is like very good strategy to play at the moment. And yeah, okay, so thank you for watching. Just a friendly reminder to click like, click subscribe. Tell me about your experience playing this list. How did you like this variant in comparison to the others you tried? And this is my favorite one I was able to build. And yeah, okay, again, thanks for watching. That's it for today, and goodbye.